Imagine living in a place where sleep has become an unattainable luxury. A place where, despite all efforts, no one can close their eyes and truly rest. Since 1995, this has been the real-life nightmare of the residents of a small neighborhood who live with a mystery that no one can explain. They are condemned to a life without sleep, but they continue to live normally, or so it seems. What could be behind this terrifying anomaly? How can anyone live for decades without sleeping? But before we dive deeper into this sinister mystery, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of our intriguing and mystery-filled stories. And if you've ever experienced something unexplainable or know someone who has, share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your experience. It all started in a seemingly harmless way. In 1995, the first reports began to emerge among the residents of a neighborhood that, until then, was considered ordinary. Some people noticed they were having trouble sleeping. At first, it seemed like temporary insomnia, but soon it became something bigger. No one in the neighborhood could sleep anymore. Children, adults, elderly, all faced the same issue. The nights had become a time without rest. Even when their bodies lay down and they closed their eyes, sleep never came. Initially, the residents thought it was a passing problem, maybe related to stress or some environmental issue. However, days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Without anyone knowing why, the entire neighborhood seemed trapped in an endless cycle of wakefulness. The strangest part of all was that, despite the lack of sleep, people continued living their lives normally. They went to work, took care of their homes, and children went to school. But behind this daily routine, there was a disturbing secret. No one in the neighborhood had slept in years. Over time, the reports began to attract the attention of health authorities. Doctors and researchers were sent to the neighborhood to investigate the phenomenon. They conducted a series of tests on the residents, trying to find a cause for the collective insomnia. But the results were, to say the least, baffling. There was no medical explanation for what was happening. The bodies of every person appeared healthy, and there were no signs of cognitive deterioration, which would be expected in extreme cases of sleep deprivation. What scared the specialists the most was the fact that people continued to function normally, even without sleep. Under normal circumstances, lack of sleep over extended periods would lead to hallucinations, memory loss, motor problems, and eventually death. But in the neighborhood, no one seemed to suffer from these symptoms. It was as if they had found a way to transcend human physiological needs, but at a high and mysterious cost. While science could not explain the phenomenon, theories began to emerge among the residents themselves. Some believed they were victims of a secret government experiment, while others thought something supernatural was happening in the neighborhood. There were also those who believed the collective insomnia was the result of a curse placed on the area, a form of punishment for something that had happened in the past and that no one remembered. As the years went by, the mystery deepened. In 2002, a team of documentary filmmakers visited the neighborhood to try to understand what was happening. They interviewed several residents, all with similar stories. Many had come to terms with the fact that they would never sleep again, accepting this strange reality as part of their lives. Others, however, were still desperately searching for answers. One interviewee, a man named Eduardo, told a story about something he saw during a night in 1996 that he could never forget. Eduardo said that, on that night, he looked out his window and saw a strange figure standing in the middle of the street. The figure had no face and seemed to be made of shadow. It stood there for a few minutes, completely still, until it mysteriously disappeared. Since that night, Eduardo believed this entity was somehow connected to the insomnia that plagued the neighborhood. Other residents reported similar sightings, describing strange figures that appeared at night, like shadows lurking in the corners or moving swiftly between houses. These supernatural stories fueled rumors that the neighborhood was haunted. Some believed the shadows were restless spirits that had condemned the residents to a life without rest. Others thought they were beings from another dimension, somehow feeding off the humans' lack of sleep. While these theories seemed absurd to scientists, there was no other explanation that made sense. Over the years, some families decided to leave the neighborhood, hoping to escape whatever was causing the insomnia. But something even more bizarre happened to these people. Everyone who tried to leave the neighborhood found, to their horror, that the problem followed them. Even after moving to another city, they still couldn't sleep. It was as if the mystery had become embedded in them permanently, condemning them to a life of eternal wakefulness, no matter where they went. In 2010, a new group of scientists attempted to study the case, this time using advanced brain monitoring technology. They performed detailed tests on several residents, including Eduardo. The goal was to identify whether, in some way, the brains of these people were entering a state of rest that replaced traditional sleep. Once again, the results were inconclusive. Although the tests showed that the residents' brains entered cycles similar to REM sleep, none of them reported dreaming or experiencing the sensation of being truly asleep. The more science advanced, the more the mystery seemed to elude logical explanation. What remained for the residents was to live with the unexplainable. They continued to live, day after day, year after year, without closing their eyes for rest. However, many reported that, over time, they began to feel as if something was taking over their minds. Small lapses in memory began to happen. Things that had once been part of their daily routines simply disappeared from their memories, as if they were slowly being erased. In 2021, the case of the neighborhood gained media attention once again when a group of independent journalists published an article reporting that some residents had started to mysteriously disappear. There was no explanation for the disappearances. People who had been regularly seen on the streets of the neighborhood simply vanished without a trace. Their families, unable to understand what was happening, didn't know if they had left voluntarily or if something more sinister was at play. Now, the story of the neighborhood where no one has slept since 1995 continues to haunt the few who still live there. What could be behind this mystery? Will science ever be able to explain how these people survive without sleep? Or is there something beyond our understanding at work here? Do you believe this could be caused by something supernatural? Share your theory in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more frightening and intriguing stories like this one. Until the next mystery.